Llewellyn King here for MECFS Alert. Today I'm going to be talking with Carol Head, who heads the new version of the old Civids Association of America. It is now called the Solve CFS Initiative. Carol, welcome to the broadcast.
Thank you, it's
Did
wonderful.
I get the name right?
Well, almost. It's the Solve MECFS Initiative.
All right, and why is it called that, and what was wrong with the old name?
Well, the old name had been around for almost 25 years and had the word association in it, and we're no longer a membership association. It also contained the word America, and we now have certainly people who are affiliated with us across the world. But I think the most important issue is the name CFIDS, C-F-I-D-S, is from another time. That acronym was used starting in the 80s and 90s, and we now know that MECFS is a more appropriate name for the illness, although we understand there are many issues and challenges with the name, but it felt better to us than CFIDS.
And how would you describe its mission today? It's not a patient-caring organization, and it's not a lobbying organization, hence the disaffection with the word association.
Yeah.
What is it?
Well, in 2008, our board of directors, and I would note that our board of directors has been comprised almost entirely of the loved ones of patients. So these are people who manage our organization who have a deep and passionate need to see their spouses, children, and brothers and sisters get well. They really understand the illness from the inside out. So the board decision was made in 2008 that the best way to serve patients was to solve the illness. And so at that point, the organization made a transition from being primarily about patient support and a membership organization to really focusing on the research, to hiring the best and the brightest researchers so that we can work on finding a solution to this illness.
And when you say hiring researchers, I've done some other work on this business. And
Yeah.
the problem with research is it runs out of money, and this happens, and then people get disillusioned. When you hire somebody, do you give them a 5-year contract? Do they have a term of employment as a researcher? Are they funded for a decent amount of time?
A great question. The first thing we did was hire a scientific director for the organization, which had never had one before. So we hired Dr. Suzanne Vernon, who has worked in the area of MECFS for almost 2 decades now. So she came to us with a deep body of knowledge about the illness across virology, immunology, genetics, with a deep understanding of it. And when she joined the organization, she could see that we needed structures that would support researchers. So I will get to your question in a moment, but one of the first things that she and the board did, which was very wise, was to create a biobank so that patients could now have a place who were interested in research, who wanted to contribute with their being to solving this illness, could enter their information and biological substance into the biobank. So we created the biobank, which reduces barriers for researchers. And secondly, we created what we call the Research Institute Without Walls. You know, when you build an institute and you buy equipment, it is very expensive and you've got a large capital outlay. So rather than do that, we give grants to the best researchers. And I probably should have used a different word, Llewellyn. It's not that we're hiring researchers, we hired Suzanne, and she is the core of the program.
But these grants, what is their duration? Usually the duration that's aimed for in most research, in most medical research, is 5 years, sometimes it's 3.
We've had grant cycles now twice that have been spaced every 3 years. And Suzanne, who will be talking with you today, can provide deeper information. But essentially, we're focused not so much on the duration, but it's doing the best research. And it takes someone who has a breadth of understanding of the illness, like Dr. Vernon, who can put it together and really discern this. At this university, this individual is doing this worse research. At this university, another one.
Do you seek out your researchers, or do they come to you?
It's worked both ways. It's worked both ways.
What would you point to as the most exciting piece of research going on?
You know, there are too many for me to answer. I will let Suzanne take that one. We have a number of research studies that from our 2011 cycle that are coming to fruition now, and she can speak with that.
Give us some examples of these studies.
One study that's completing now is by Dane Cook, that looks at post-exertional malaise, although I dislike the word malaise, and really measures and creates specific measures that are discernible from person to person in the impact of exercise on healthy controls versus ME/CFS patients. Another is from Dr. Patrick McGowan, that is looking at the impact of epigenetics in this illness. I think most of us are familiar with genetics, and that's, you know, the hard-coded aspect of our cells and our being. But more and more medical research scientists are understanding that although genetics matter, epigenetics matter as well. So he's done a study looking at the differences, again, in ME/CFS patients versus controls, and looking at what other aspects other than the genetic code might be causing the problems with ME/CFS.
When you talk about the biological bank, is this a physical collection of specimens held somewhere?
Yes.
Or is it a linkage to other resources?
Interesting. We have almost 1,000 people now who have registered with us for it, and of them, roughly a third also have provided specimens. But we have the 1,000, sort of, we call them research ready. These are patients who want to contribute in this way with the knowledge about their illness and their own physical condition. Then as specific research studies need specific kinds of samples, because they differ depending upon what the research is looking at, we have those individuals signed up and at the ready, and we can then get samples.
What are the samples? Blood, urine, tissue?
In our instance, we are using saliva and blood. But just one other quick note about the biobank. We do use it to support our own researchers that we fund, but it is open. We relish when other researchers that we're not funding, because we don't have funds to do as much as we'd like, come to us, and we also will release our samples to them.
Your predecessor association was in Charlotte, right?
Yes.
And now you're in Los Angeles. This is a substantial move, not only metaphorically, but also physically.
Yes, yes.
Why Los Angeles?
Well, a national organization really can be anywhere. I live in Los Angeles, and we had hired a couple of people there. And the organization certainly thrived in North Carolina, and at the same time, being in a larger metropolitan area, I think has its advantages. We're also, finding that our connections with the Silicon Valley in Northern California are useful to us as well.